If you're ready to harness the power of your communications data, blast off with Nylas today.
And we're live. Welcome. Karen?
Hey, Blog, how's it going?
Doing fine, thanks. You?
Awesome. Maybe we start with quick intros. Blog, did you want to go ahead?
Sure. Hi, I'm Black. I'm a senior developer advocate here at Nylas.
And hi, I'm Ram. I'm a developer advocate at Nylas.
So today, Ram is going to walk us through how to set up our first Google API project with Nylas.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at how we can actually connect to a user to get a user's calendar availability. So in this use case, we're going to look at, okay, let's take a look at, take for example, the Google APIs. We're going to set up a Google project so that we can connect to all the different Google APIs available to us. And from there, we're going to look at how we can actually access a user's calendar availability. And we're going to do this using the Nylas dashboard. And as well, we're going to use Google as our example. So before we jump in looking at all the different configuration, I'm just going to walk us through a quick diagram of what we're going to walk through in this video. So let me share my screen. Okay, and I just want to walk through this video just to kind of set everything up for us. Mm-hmm. And in the top left, we have the developer, so yourself building an application. And the example we're going to use is the developer is building out a feature that requires the user's calendar availability. So we're going to build this feature. Let's walk through the flow of building this feature. And we're going to use the Nylas platform for this video just to kind of set everything up for us. Mm-hmm. And in the top left, we have the developer, so yourself building an application. And the example we're going to use is, okay. So Blog, I think you were playing the video in the background. I just put you on mute. So here we are going to use the Nylas platform. And we're going to use two parts of the Nylas platform. We're going to use the dashboard, and as well, we're going to use authentication. Mm-hmm. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use the Google project as our example. And using the Nylas platform, you can connect with many different communication providers, communication service providers. So a good example are Google Calendar, Gmail, Microsoft, and many, many more. So we're going to look at essentially what I've started here is first, we're going to look at how we can set up a Google API project, and then how we can configure Nylas so that we can start connecting to a user's account to get their calendar availability.
Pretty cool. That's awesome.
So let's first jump in and take a look at the Nylas dashboard. And you can sign up for Nylas for free to join and use the application, or just use Nylas through a trial. So we're first going to look at creating a new app. And in this application, we're going to look at, we'll just for now call the app name Calendar. We'll just call it based on the feature we're building out. So it'll be Calendar Availability. Cool. And we're going to be building an application that's going to communicate with Nylas through APIs, and it's going to be a web-based application. So we're going to skip any other inputs for now and just create the app. Mm-hmm. And now it shows us all the different next steps we can take. And the workflow we're going to work through, or the flow we're going to work through, is connecting an email account. So once we connect an email account, we can actually start syncing and getting calendar availability, for example. And that's the workflow, or the happy path we're going to work towards. So here we haven't actually set up any authentication, and I can show you that quickly under app settings. If we go to app settings and on the second tab, click authentication, we haven't provided any of the communication providers' authentication information. Mm-hmm. But let's go through and take a look at what the unhappy path flow will look like. So this is what you may see when you try to connect an account first, and we'll revisit scopes in later on in the video. But let's first take a look at actually entering in a user account. So I'm going to use my own account, and I'm going to try connecting my account. So it's going to say login with Gmail, and you can sign in with Google. So this flow that you're seeing right now is actually a built-in authentication flow that Nylas provides you out of the box. So you can actually use this flow when building your own application. And it's called hosted authentication. So all the authentication will be built out for you, and you can just plug it into your application to connect to different accounts. So once I press sign in with Google, I'm gonna come across this error.
Mhm.
And this error is essentially telling me that I haven't created a Google project and an OAuth client ID.
Yeah.
So I need to be able to do this so that I can actually connect to a user's account. And our documentation here has all the steps, and we're going to walk through all the steps in this video that you need to do so that you can actually start connecting to a user's Google Calendar, for example, to be able to get their availability.
Awesome.
So let's go over to Google Cloud. So you will need a Google Cloud account. And in here, we're going to start a new project. So in the top left,
Mhm.
we're going to look at all our available projects, and we're going to click on New Project. And from here, we're going to enter in our project name. And for now, we're just going to use the feature that we're building out, calendar availability. And we're just going to enter in our organization name, and we're going to press create. So this is going to create a new project for us. And once we have this project created, we're going to go and enable the APIs that we want to communicate with. So let's select this project. And we're going to go to the top left again and go to API and services.
Mhm.
So in API and services, we're going to enable certain APIs and services. And the one that we're most interested in is the calendar API. So we're going to enable this API. And you can also enable other APIs if you want to connect to, for example, a user's email or their contacts or any other resource information like room availability that they have on their account. But for
That's what I
now,
was going to ask about other APIs.
so the other APIs are Google Gmail API, the People API, and as well the Admin API.
Cool.
And for now, we're just going to look at setting up the Google Calendar API. So let's press enable. And the next thing we will need to do after this, once this is set up, is we're going to need to set up the auth consent screen. So anytime a user needs to connect their Google account, they need to consent to what information they're providing to the application. And this is what Google calls scopes. So on the far left, you can see an FAQ or just a way to learn more about scopes. So definitely check this out in your own time. So you can see a list of all scopes available to you. And we're going to walk through some of these in a few minutes.
Perfect.
So for now, the type of application we're creating is going to be internal, but most applications will be external because they will be public facing.
Yeah.
So for the sake of this video, let's just create an internal application. And we're going to pass in some information here. And I'm just going to use the app name as calendar availability. And for the support email, I will put in the DevRel email account. So this will be devrel@nylas.com. And we're going to have to add some information here. And one thing we need to add here is an authorized domain. And the point of an authorized domain is anytime we route a user to Google, it wants to make sure it came from the correct domain.
Perfect.
So we need to first add the nylas.com domain because we're going to be using Nylas's hosted authentication. And we don't need to add anything else. Let me close this for a second. We can also add the developer contact information. So this will be devrel@nylas.com. And we're going to press save and continue. And here we come to the scopes, which I mentioned earlier. And think of scopes as permissions that you want to allow an application to access certain information about you. So to be able to access, for example, calendar information, we need to add specific scopes in this section. And just before we do that, I just want to point out in the Nylas documentation, we have a list of all the available scopes that we would want to use to be able to connect to a user's communication data, such as their email, their calendar, their contacts, or any other resources that they have available to them. And just one thing to point out is we actually need to put in 3 required scopes. So the user info email, profile, and their OpenID. So these are always required for the scopes. And the other one we're going to add in our use case is the calendar read-only. So so we can actually sync with the user's calendar and get their availability. So let's go over to the Google Cloud and add the scopes that we want to use. So we have to filter by scope. So we're going to filter first for user info. And we're going to add these two scopes. And the other one we're going to add is we're going to add their Open ID. So here we have to add Open ID. And the last one we're going to add is going to be related to their calendar. So by typing in calendar as your filter, you can see all the available calendar scopes. And the one that we're most interested in is going to be calendars.read only. So once we've done this, let's go update, press update at the bottom. And now we can complete the OAuth consent screen. And this just shows us a summary of everything we've added. So we can go back to the dashboard. And the last thing we need to be able to do so that Nylas can communicate with Google Cloud or with this actual calendar availability project is we need to set up the credentials.
Perfect.
So by pressing on the credentials here, we're going to create an OAuth 2.0 client ID. So this will allow Nylas to communicate with your Google project that you set up to be able to connect to your different users' communication data. So let's press Create Credentials. And here we're going to press OAuth Client ID. And the application type is going to be Web Application. And for now, as a name, we're just going to put in Calendar Availability. And one more piece of information we need to add here is related to redirect URIs. So what this is once the user is sent to Google, they're going to accept the permissions that we're requesting, and then Google needs to send them back somewhere afterwards. And that's essentially our application.
Yes.
So here we're going to add the Nylas endpoint for OAuth because we're actually going to be using Nylas's built-in solution for authentication. So once a user accepts their permission, they will be sent back to your application. But first, they will go through the Nylas callback endpoint here.
Nice.
So now let's press Create. And this will give us the credentials that we need to put into the Nylas dashboard.
It's interesting.
Yeah, so let's bring these two pieces of information over, and we're going to drop it into our actual dashboard. So I'm going to go back here, back to the Nylas dashboard, and I'm going to go to App Settings, and I'm going to press on Authentication. So here we need to add the client ID and the client secret. So let's grab these pieces of information from the Google Cloud Platform. So I'm going to grab the client ID, and I'm going to grab the client secret. And one thing to keep in mind with the secret is that you generally don't want to share this information. So it should be stored securely.
Yes.
And then we're going to press Save Settings. So just before we walk through the Happy Path flow, I just want to show you just an overview of what we've done. So here we went into the provider. We set up the Google project. We took the credentials and we added it to the dashboard. And now what this allows us to do is to connect users' accounts so we can start getting calendar availability using the actual Nylas APIs. So let's walk through the actual Nylas hosted authentication flow again that's available in the Nylas dashboard. So I'm going to go back to the Nylas dashboard, and we're going to go press on dashboard here, and we're going to click on Connect an Account. So we're going to connect our first account. And this is what we started doing. We went through an unhappy path. And let's go through the happy path flow. So I type in the email that we first started with, ram.bansal@nylas.com. And again, we're shown the different scopes that we want to request. And in our use case, we actually want to request calendar read only. So we can select all the scopes if we want, but the one we've set up in Google Project is calendar read only. So if we want to set up the other scopes, we need to add this to the Google Project before we can request permission. So now that we have calendar.read only, let's connect this user account so we can start getting their calendar availability. So here it says choose an account from Nylas.com. So we're going to use this account that we have.
Yeah, now the screen is different because you have authentication.
Yeah, so here we've already been authenticated.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
And now it's saying, okay, this application you're building, calendar availability,
Mm-hmm.
wants to get your calendar so it can access your Google Calendar. And here you can allow or deny the permission. So this is all done within Google. And once you click allow, you'll be sent back to the Nylas dashboard.
Hmm.
So now we see that we've successfully added the account,
Hmm.
and we also have an access token that's available to us. So now, essentially, let me go back to the diagram. We can start using the communication platform. We can start using Nylas's APIs to get calendar availability from Google. So all this was done using the Nylas dashboard, and we need 3 pieces of information so we can start communicating with Nylas. So the 3 pieces of information we need are the access token, which is unique for each user, connected user, and as well, we need the client ID and the client secret. So once you take these pieces of information, you can start communicating with the Nylas API.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so we walked through and did most of this without having to start any coding. So we are able to integrate with Google.
Mm-hmm.
We're able to connect an account, and we're able to use hosted authentication, all without having to type in any code.
Yeah, that's right. That's pretty cool. I mean, not even a single line of code. So just all through the dashboard and GCP and everything. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so at this point, you can just start building your application and not really focus on the communication layer or connecting a user's account. And all this was done pretty much out of the box using Nylas.
Yeah, that's right. And by using the scopes, you can actually limit what's going to be available or not, right? So it's not like they're not going to be able to access everything from you. It's only what you allow them to do. So that's
and it's definitely advisable just to request scopes that you need and not request anything more. And this does impact, for example, your privacy and your terms that you set up with the user. So that's something also you should keep in mind.
That's perfect. That's really cool.
I guess one thing I would also mention is definitely check out our blog. So go to nylas.com/blog to check out all our upcoming posts. I know blog next week has a lot coming up on customer relationship management, a lot of CRM content coming out next week.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty intense.
So that's going to be exciting to see. And as well, continue to keep going through our videos on YouTube. So we have a lot of content coming out on building with Nylas, any developer content, and a lot of fun stuff with CRM as well coming out next week.
And remember that you can just contact us directly, or you can write at DevRel@nylas.com and just request if you have something that you want to see. Like, I don't know, if you have something like connect something with Node or something like that, just let us know. And we're going to do our best to try to get a blog and get a live and do everything we can.
Yeah, we love to hear from you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, don't forget that we have our GitHub Nylas samples, where we're going to put almost all of our repositories. So a lot of information is going to be there.
Awesome. Well, this was fun. Thanks, Blog.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you so much, Rem.
All right. See you, everyone.
Bye. Take care.